All right, we start with breaking news from Chicago and Milwaukee. 91 miles north of us, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are preparing for their own rally at the Fiserv Arena that you might recognize from the Republican National Convention just about 6 weeks ago. Tonight on the stage in Chicago, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, Barack and Michelle Obama, the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, along with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. So with that, we welcome you to the Ferris Show on television, and we welcome you to the United Center for night 2 of the Democratic National Convention. You might say night 1, truly, of the Kamala Harris Convention. And first tonight, elections are about addition. That is, if you want to win the election. Nobody understands that better in modern history than Barack Obama, and he headlines tonight's event. His challenge is to reset after night 1. So much has been made about passing the torch, as we said, from Biden to Harris. The question is, how do Democrats pass the torch from Obama to Harris? How do you get the Obama voters of 2008 to capture and buy in to Kamala Harris the way they bought in to Barack Obama? Last night, the speakers mentioned Donald Trump more than the economy, crime, or the border combined. We actually did the word count for you. Democrats last night went back to the Biden playbook. It wasn't the Harris playbook. Joe Biden's speech got pushed into the early morning. Maybe that was planned. Maybe it was not. But either way, for the first time in 30 days, yesterday it was not about freedom and joy. They are trying to recapture that here. Back over the past 30 days, Kamala Harris figured out, and maybe Barack Obama's folks had something to do with this, that talking about Trump like he's a clown has been working for Kamala Harris. Yesterday went back to talking about Donald Trump as Hitler. That works inside this room. Winning elections are about everybody outside of this room. We're going to get to Donald Trump in a moment, who spent today on the stump in Howell, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. Except he's almost unrecognizable on the stump, as if someone stole all his energy on the trail.
They shouldn't arrest people for saying the election was rigged, but they like that. They go after guys like me, but they don't go after people that kill people.
Bill O'Reilly coming up on Trump's lack of charm, his words, not ours, and whether the Democratic fumble represents an opening for Donald Trump. The DNC thanked President Biden last night. He is in California on vacation at a billionaire donor's ranch. We aren't kidding. He's there. You're not going to hear from him again this week. You might not even hear his name. Which brings us to the issue of Trump here in this room. Democrats seem far more unified about beating Trump then maybe they are excited about Harris. They want to be excited about Kamala Harris. Can Barack Obama deliver on that? Can they deliver on the ideas of 2008? Kamala Harris's ideas of 2019 didn't work. And she's not offered any concrete new ones. We're still waiting for those policy proposals, which may be boring, but her policy proposal of price controls did not go over very well on Friday. In order to win in November, she will need to sell swing state voters on a new vision for America. That's what Barack Obama did. And she'll have to explain what that means. We begin tonight with Illinois Congressman Mike Quigley up here on the balcony. Good to see you, sir.
You too.
Welcome. What does Barack Obama say, not to excite this crowd, but to excite the crowd at home?
Look, this is one of the great orators, campaigners, messengers of our time. You look at the states. He won in 08 and 12. Those states we need to win today. So he knows how to do this better than anyone. The vice president had 3 tasks when she took over. Unite the party, ignite the base, and reverse the polls. She's done those 3. Some of this now, as you suggested, is how do you go after disgruntled Republicans, independent swing voters? Because, you know, we've got the currency you need to win these, volunteers and money. You need to maintain that energy. No one can do it like him.
Whenever I think about Barack Obama, I think about Barack Obama 2004. You might remember that, Kid.
I was there.
You were there. All right. So you remember this speech. Take a listen.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America.
He couldn't say that in today's Democratic Party.
You know, I'm not sure. He has a way of accomplishing just about anything he thinks he needs to do. So, look, I was there that night. I was a county commissioner. He was a state senator. And when he was done, I said, who the heck is that? It was amazing. And so I wouldn't understate any of what he thinks needs to happen, he can accomplish. So
does the party need to morph? And we saw that over the past 30 days of almost dealing with Donald Trump the way Barack Obama deals with political enemies, with sort of ridicule and humor rather than this very dark threat to democracy overarching thing that wasn't working for Joe Biden.
Well, there's a reason for that, though. I understand your point. People weren't listening to anything we said, or frankly, President Biden. They were watching how President Biden was performing. That's why I said what I said and asked him to step aside. So I think...
Have you been proven right, you think?
Look, it's clearly not about me, but I think he understood that and he made that decision. But the bottom line is it allowed us to do two things. Focus on the affirmative, and that's worked. But I think a lot of that, we can now focus back on Trump. And I think it's been a gift to us.
Do you need to focus on Trump or do you need to focus on swing state voters? Last night, I listened, and we can put the list back up. I didn't hear the word fentanyl once. That is something that is devastating working class Americans in western Pennsylvania, in northern Georgia, in rural Georgia. These are the voters you guys need. It's not what you're talking about.
No, look, I'm at some of those rallies, and I'm at rallies for members in all the swing states. They're talking about fentanyl. They're talking about safety. They're talking about all these.
That's not what's happening on the stage here.
First night.
Okay.
A lot of that was about Joe Biden. You got a long week. You got a long campaign. You had 3 tasks, and those are accomplished. What I just said is still true. Now we go after disgruntled Republican swing voters, and we talk about the issues you just mentioned.
All right. The other person who's on the stage tonight, and this is very different because Michelle Obama and Joe Biden, I'm going to say they had a frosty relationship. You don't have to comment. You don't have to comment on that. But she is most popular after Martin Luther King Jr., Queen Elizabeth II, Jimmy Carter, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michelle Obama on the list of popular Americans. Kamala Harris is 15th. Donald Trump is 24th. And I would remind our viewers, 2 of the people on that list is dead, and 1 is approaching 100 years old and in hospice care. What can she do that even her husband can't?
There's a base that she can speak to that, as you suggested, very few others can reach. And she has a method and a manner to do it that's just extraordinary. So
what is the drama tonight? What tonight is success for Barack Obama? And if he doesn't do it in your mind, what's the missed opportunity?
I don't think there'll be a missed opportunities. It's one of those things when you know it, when you see it. You know, you can't say, oh, these are the magic words you have to say. So much of that is the messenger. And it is Barack Obama and Michelle Obama who are doing it like nobody else. They know what we have to do. This is now continue to ignite that party, unite the party, ignite the base, but to move forward in a manner they did in 2 elections. And, I'm expecting a great show.
Well, look, Barack Obama always puts on a great show when he does it. What we're not going to see out of this party that claims to be, and I keep hearing it, how unified Democrats are. You're right that they're excited about Kamala Harris. But you think about the 2 former presidents who are here are going to speak, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama this week, and Joe Biden. We're not going to see that moment on Thursday night of Obama, Biden, Clinton, and Kamala Harris on the stage. Why not?
I mean, there's different ways to message. I think the fact that you spread them out, the American people don't have that short of a memory. They're going to understand and remember what Barack and Michelle say tonight. They're going to understand and remember what the vice president says tomorrow. And, of course, the vice president.
Right, but I think reasonable people can agree that if people thought having Joe Biden next to Kamala Harris on Kamala Harris's biggest night, Thursday night, would help, he'd be here.
I'm not the pundit, the messenger who understands all these things. These folks are pretty good at it. I will tell you, I was there in 08. I was there in 12. This kind of energy is hard to describe. This may be 08 on steroids.
Okay, I was there in 08. I don't think it was 08 on steroids. I think you're getting there.
I think you can quantify it. You don't raise $200 million in a week for nothing.
Well, okay,
58,000 volunteers in a night, 5,000 in one rally in Nevada.
This was a change. We can move on this. Talk to me about the psychology here, right? And we're going to hear the chant, "We're not going back." That implies Donald Trump is part of the past. We're hearing from Kamala Harris over and over, the future, the future, the future. What is the change in psychology between Joe Biden's messaging and Kamala Harris's messaging?
Some of it's who's saying it, but the fact that we're not going back, I mean, they're talking about reproductive rights. They're talking about issues like climate change. They're talking about equality, voting rights, access, all the things that we have talked about for years. And I do think you have to admit there's a contrast here. This is Senator Vance and President Trump. They're not talking happy, happy, joy, joy. This is a dark, angry message. And I understand you have to capture some of that.
The message changed. I would argue that last night about Donald Trump was pretty dark. I mean, there was a lot of, it wasn't happiness and joy last night, but you say that of all the issues you mentioned just now, real issues,
we haven't gone through them all.
Reproductive rights, voting rights, a couple of others, none of those are anywhere close to the most important issues when we poll voters.
Well, you're talking about what going forward, we're going backward. We can talk about the economy because I think you can make the case that President Biden had a hell of a lot better economic record than President Trump.
She's not running on it, though.
Well, it's early, and you can't cram everything into those first few days. As I said, there were 3 tasks right out of the box. You get those tasks done, and you build on that. That's what the rest of the week's on that. Give them some time.
Build or pivot. There's two ways of looking at it.
Build on those messages. Right. You can do more than one thing at a time. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Congressman. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Enjoy the convention.
You know, you can get a real hot dog and a real pizza here in Chicago, too. Come on back.
I'm going to agree with you on the hot dog, not the pizza. That's not my thing, okay?
Thank you.
Donald Trump is running out of time to make a comeback. Really, we're now into single-digit days after the convention before early voting. Bill O'Reilly explains why Trump wants people to focus on Kamala Harris. He's not saying much in these speeches, and the crowd here loves anything and everything, as you just heard about Kamala Harris. Why that might be a bad thing for her chances to win.
Serious infections and blood clots, some fatal. Cancers, including lymphoma and skin. Heart attack, stroke, and GI tears occurred. People 50 and older with a heart disease risk factor have an increased risk of death. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Help heal your painful skin. Disrupt the itch and rash of eczema. Talk to your doctor about Rinvoq.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
I keep hearing about the suburban woman doesn't like Trump. Well, I think it's a fake poll, because why would they like me? I keep the suburbs safe.
That was Donald Trump earlier in Howell, Michigan. Despite all the warning signs that his campaign may not be sinking, but it is stalling. He's talking about it as though he is winning, and winning big. As you heard, he says some of the polls, at least the polls that don't show him doing very well, are fake. In reality, and to be fair, Kamala Harris just had the best 30 days in political history. She was the benefactor of a complete and total reset. Of course, aided and boosted by the most friendly and fawning media coverage you have ever seen. We told you whoever became the Democratic nominee was going to be turned into the first living saint. The deification is complete, and tonight and this week is the celebration here in Chicago of that deification. So Trump's playing catch-up. And he stayed off the campaign trail and on the golf course for weeks. And now he's barnstorming swing states. He'll be in North Carolina tomorrow, Arizona Thursday, before wrapping up in Arizona and Nevada on Friday. You see him and J.D. Vance, tag team. And he'll need to do more than call her comrade Kamala. We showed you the tweet. We showed you how the pictures of her in front of the Soviet hammer and sickle we're going to start the conversation about Kamala Harris's views and her policies, but it will not finish it. Bill O'Reilly is here, host of the No Spin News on BillO'Reilly.com, author of the coming book, Confronting the President's No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. All right, Bill, you said recently that Donald Trump needs to become more charming, in your words. He's lost the charm of 2016. So far, he has not taken your advice. Is that because he doesn't have the energy to? What's going on, you think?
I don't know what's going on. I think that Donald Trump is a man who does completely what he wants to do. He's not, he doesn't do the advisor thing. I mean, he's got people telling him suggestions, but he's not like the Democrats who, they basically engineer the coverage. Trump is spontaneous. But he is a good presenter. People like to watch him in action. And I think he should use some of that rather than be vitriolic. You can make your point in a humorous way. I mean, I do it on NewsNation. I make fun of your hair. You can do stuff like that. Is that
the best you got? Really? We're at the DNC. The best you got is my hair? All right.
Yeah, that's all I have tonight, Leland. But I can do 3-4 minutes on your hair if you want.
Okay. Well, we as much as the audience would just absolutely love that. Look, is Donald Trump though is a different Donald Trump? We played that soundbite coming in of him reading off of the script. This just isn't the same guy as 2016. Now, the argument would be, right, look, let Kamala Harris and the Democrats talk, and they will, as Kamala Harris did on Friday, present ideas that are antithetical to swing state voters. That's a pretty risky strategy in the middle of August, isn't it?
Look, I'm not a political strategist, and I don't really care what they do. What I do care about is what's good for the folks. And when I was watching Joe Biden's speech last night, and of course Kamala Harris is tied right into Biden, there's no difference at all, okay? I felt like I was reading Alice in Wonderland. Did you ever read that book, Leland? Lewis Carroll, did you read it?
No, I told my English teachers I did, but I never read it, no.
Okay. Well, you need to go back and look at it. It was Alice falls into this rabbit hole and then is confronted with this chaos where every time she turns around, there's something that doesn't make any sense. And then what the Republicans need to capitalize on, and this is Trump, is to point it out very simply that she says this, but here's the reality. Let me give you one very vivid example. Today, the Democrats come out on their platform, endorsed, of course, by Kamala Harris, and say, we're going to raise the corporate income tax to 28% from 21%. That's what Trump had. Okay. Well, a good portion of that raise goes back to the consumers because companies pass on their increased costs to people who buy their product. Everybody knows that. So right now we're looking at gas under Biden and Harris up 38%, food 21%, mortgage 148%, car insurance 118%, and you're going to laden more expense on the folks? That's pretty basic.
Well, look, I'll go one more with you.
All the Republicans have
this is
to
just
do.
The way. Oh, well, look, corporations will do one more, right? Because they're going to raise some prices, and they're also going to lay off some workers because they're going to say, we have to protect our bottom line. One way to do that is by cutting workers. An interesting thing is happening at the DNC. I've covered a lot of these, Bill. You have as well. And you listen to the chants. There's a psychology here. We're not going back, puts Donald Trump in the past. Everyone wants to be talking about the future. It means that when people talk to their friends, hey, are you going back? Are you voting for Trump? That's part of it. I'm hearing USA chants at the Democratic National Convention. I've never heard that before. Somehow the Harris-Walz campaign is, I don't want to say if they're embracing American exceptionalism, but there is some kind of patriotism thing going on here that we did not see from Joe Biden, and maybe didn't even see from Barack Obama.
I think that some people at the convention think the Olympics are still going on. I think that's what it is, Leland. Look, I'm happy if they chant USA. That's where we live. We should be proud of our country no matter what party you're in. But I'm a guy that wants problem solving, okay? That's what it is all about for me. Donald Trump was able to run the economy efficiently, and I don't care what anybody says. I can prove that all day long. Joe Biden totally booted the economy, 100% booted it. And now at the convention in Chicago, they're trying to rewrite history and say, no, he did a great job with the economy, which is just hooey. H-O-O-E-Y.
You know, it's interesting, though, Bill. I got to stop you for a second, because they're not really saying that. They're just kind of ignoring so much of Joe Biden. Joe Biden may have said in his speech, nobody was watching that.
Biden said it last night. Biden went...
Right. Oh, yeah. And at midnight, and nobody was watching. There is a complete divorce now from Joe Biden, and it is working. And it's working, I think you could say, because the media is allowing it, but also because Donald Trump can't seem to counter message it. And you say you're looking out for what's good for the folks. Part of that is people have to hear the message. Donald Trump has not figured out how to break through on this. Why is that?
I don't know why it is, and I don't really particularly care. If the RNC buys spots through their political action committees, they can easily do it. It doesn't have to be Trump. They can saturate the airwaves with political ads and say this is a bunch of bull. Okay? What I'm concerned about is you're absolutely right. The corporate media has allied with the Democratic Party, and that's a big advantage to Kamala Harris. But here's what you're missing. Kamala Harris's support is thin, very thin. And most of it is, we hate Trump, which is why, and I liked your chart, that was very creative, whoever thought that up. They're mentioning Trump 100 times more than any issue. Because Kamala Harris has zero to run on. She has no accomplishments at all. In the Senate, as vice president, Biden had very little accomplished. Very little. They don't have anything. Now, you're asking me about why Trump doesn't. I have no blanket idea why he doesn't do it. But I can tell you that political ads bought in states around the country can easily demolish what the Democrats are saying with facts.
Right.
And if the Republicans don't want to do that, they'll take credit.
Lose. Yeah, I can't take credit for the chart. That was Andrew Roberts, one of our star producers. As you know, having a great team makes an enormous difference. This is Donald Trump defending his attacks. And remember, a lot of his attacks haven't been about the economy that you're talking about. They're personal about Kamala Harris. Here they are. Take a listen.
You have criticized her appearance. You've criticized her intelligence. Is that the message to win over those moderate voters that you're going to need in the middle?
No, I don't think so. I think that the message is what a bad job they've done.
Why insult her intelligence?
Well, I have to do that. Well, I don't think she's a very bright person.
Can you make sense of that answer?
Yeah, I can make sense of it. Trump is a guy that if you attack him, he's going to attack you back personally. That's what he does. That's what he did in 16. That's what he did in 20. That's what he's doing in 24. That's who he is. All right? That's how he goes, how he rolls, as they say. A much more effective tactic on the part of the former president would be to say to the camera, to any reporter, I don't think that Kamala Harris is competent, not about smart, is competent because she has no accomplishments. She's an empty vessel. That's much more cutting and much more authoritative. And it's true with the not smart.
I got to give you this because I'm going to let you plug your book because Confronting the Presidents plays a role in this. One of the presidents that you covered in real time was Barack Obama. A couple of very famous interviews with him when you were at Fox News. I was there. I watched. I learned from them. Barack Obama comes here tonight as a wildly popular person within the Democratic Party. You know him well. You've covered him. You understand him. Does he come here as the 2004 Barack Obama, there is no black America, there is no white America, on and on and on? Or does he come here as Mr. Intersectional, speaking to black voters and the Democratic base?
No, he'll generalize about why the Democratic Party is so much better for everybody than Trump. He hates Trump. I hate to use the word hate, but Barack Obama loathes Donald Trump. I was there at the Correspondents' Dinner, sitting next to Trump, when Obama unloaded on him about the birth certificate stuff. So there's real bad blood, and Obama will take any opportunity to skewer Trump. So you'll hear that tonight.
But Obama does it differently, right? You were there at the Correspondents' Dinner. You were there at the Correspondents' Dinner, and Obama didn't skewer Trump by being mean to him. He made fun of him. He ridiculed him. And you could see Trump just seething. I so wish we had pulled that video for today. It would have been just a great moment of this thing. Barack Obama figured that out in 2022. The way to go after Republican Senate candidates was to ridicule him, humiliate him. Joe Biden never figured that out about Donald Trump. He always talked about threats to democracy and Hitler. Nobody bought it. I'll give you the last 30 seconds. What is the psychology now of Barack Obama being able to go after tonight and roast Donald Trump again? Because you know Donald Trump won't help but to get down in the gutter and punch back.
Well, that's what Obama hopes. He'll bait Trump, hoping that Trump tomorrow goes wild or on social media and says things that are going to hurt him. That's what this is all about. There's no question about it. And Obama will use humor. He'll demean Trump. And then Trump, if he watches or sees it, will lash back. And that's what Obama and the Democrats want. You won't hear any policy tonight from Obama because there isn't anything to run on. Again, they have nothing to run on. And Obama's a very smart guy.
He is. And you think about the people now behind Team Obama, David Plouffe and others who are working now with Kamala Harris and her team. Bill, always good to see you. The prediction's been set for Barack Obama's speech. The humor lines he's had before are pretty good. So we'll see what he brings. Thanks, Bill. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me in.
All right. Donald Trump said his mugshot would swing black voters in his direction. It may have for a while. How will Trump stop them from returning to Harris? And what Barack Obama will say about this mugshot when we come back.
Shop Carewell.com today.
Bob, welcome back. Something highly unusual is going on at the DNC right now. They have asked everybody to remain perfectly still, and for the first time in my time ever covering conventions, it is dead silent here because they are taking some kind of group photo with a very old camera and have asked everybody to stay completely still. So that's what's happening, and that's why you see all the people but hear no noise. So with that, we continue and press on. Day 2 of the DNC. Democrats came out of the gate yesterday with adrenaline-driven confidence. Only way to say it. Tonight, both Barack and Michelle Obama try to turn that into votes. You can see them taking the picture. I guess they're turning it on a pedestal. The photographer is there. Michelle Obama is the 5th most popular person in the world. I don't think she will be in this picture, though. So her loss or our loss, who knows? Harris has been on a steady incline in the polls, up right now 1.5 in the Real Clear polling average. They keep saying don't move. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep talking. But when you look back at 2016, Hillary Clinton was up 6 points in August. The same time in 2020, President Biden was up 7.4 points from Donald Trump.
And things have changed dramatically, but this is still a very competitive race. If the election were today, I'm not sure who would win, and I think it may well be President Trump because it's an electoral college fight. All
right, that's David Axelrod of President Obama's 2008 campaign, 2012 campaign, long-time Democratic strategist, one of the best there is in the business. With us now, noticed political reporter Jasmine Wright, covered Kamala Harris for years, Chris Hahn, NewsNation political contributor, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast, who have both remained perfectly still now for the past two and a half minutes.
I wanted to make sure they got the back of my head perfectly.
All right. Well, we will be easy to spot your neon green. Okay.
Don't know who it is.
Jasmine, there is this sort of unbelievable enthusiasm and optimism here. We've got Democrats talking about how they're going to put Texas or Florida in play and all this other kind of stuff. You're up 1.5 points in the average, and Hillary Clinton was up 3 times that and still lost.
Sure.
Is there a irrational exuberance?
Well, I think this is a reflection of how much hope Democrats now have with Harris at the top of the ticket that they didn't have when Biden was at the top of the ticket. I think that they're seeing in polls that more pathways are open, though today the Harris campaign confirmed that they are going to stick with their blue wall strategy to 270, but states around the Sun Belt are now opening up, making more routes possible. They say routes that aren't possible for former President Trump. So I think what you're seeing is a reflection of the enthusiasm because Democrats now feel like they have a fighting chance in a way that they didn't with Biden.
All right, so Chris Hahn, how do you take this enthusiasm out, not to rally the base, because the base is rallied, but to swing voters, the issues of concern we don't hear about at this convention?
I think that you got to go out and talk to them one-on-one, and one of the best things about a convention where people are organized and unified and hopeful is that they are more likely to go out and pass that message along to their neighbors and address the concerns that their neighbors and friends who may not be party activists or regular voters have. And I think in an election that's going to be, resolved by 100,000 votes across 5 states, organization matters. People willing to go out in the field and do the work and pull out votes matter. And I think that's the best thing about what's happening right now for Democrats.
One thing that has happened unquestionably in Kamala Harris's favor, and in a huge change from the last month of coverage of Joe Biden, right, is the press went from hammering can Joe Biden even make it to November to coronating Kamala Harris over the past 30 days. We have it. The kids say we have the receipts. Take a listen.
Exuberance, joy. I have not, and we were just talking about this a little while ago, I have not seen so many Democrats laugh, smile, sing.
A feeling for the first time in many months that this is not only a winnable race, but that they can really slam Donald Trump.
You'll hear her up there, and she is confident, she is calm, and she is commanding.
Okay, so is there a concern among the Harris campaign that once the sugar high and the novelty wears off, you've still got now 80 some odd days until November where an awful lot can happen?
Right. I think when I talk to my sources, they just want to get through Thursday. They want to get her up there. They want to get her in that speech introducing who she would be as president to America, not just who she is, but who she would be as president to America. And then they're ready to worry about the rest. They recognize that the race is going to get tighter. They recognize it's going to get harder. They recognize that there is more work for them to do. That is something that is probably the first or second, third thing that comes out of their mouth.
All right, yeah, and to be fair, the people involved in the race we talked to say sort of the same thing, right? This is tighter than you believe. I'll give Hahn the last 30 seconds. What is the biggest risk to the Harris campaign?
I think things out of her control, right?
Not her doing an interview.
International incident that
oh, come on.
Not her doing an interview?
Oh, come on. Her doing an interview, right?
No,
come on.
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest risk to Harris is things she cannot control. I think that the expectations for her doing an interview are actually kind of low. And when she actually does do the interview, she's going to exceed those expectations because she's a very bright, articulate, knows the issues cold. And frankly, I remember her being excellent on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I remember being excellent.
You're talking about the Kavanaugh. You're talking about the Kavanaugh hearings and the debate about
Bill Barr and the Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr. Yes, I think that she is very good in those positions. Look, I do think she's going to be on her back foot though when she goes into an interview, and I think it'll be smart for them to do an interview before you get to the debate where she actually has to take give and go with the former president.
All right. Hey, thank you both very much. We really appreciate it. Great to have you. you. Enjoy the convention. Right. There you go. All right. One thing that has not come up during the convention, really in any meaningful way, is what we thought was going to be the huge story, not inside the hall here, but outside. Remember all those protests that were going to change and bring back 1968 and was going to become the story? Hasn't happened. The tens of thousands who are going to come down and descend on the United Center, they haven't arrived. You always worry about the wrong thing. That's given some leeway to the Democratic Party. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer has been reporting all day from the floor. What's the right emotion to say among leaders here? Relief that all of this that was promised, all of the kerfuffle that might have been on the split screen is not?
Yeah, Leland, and I think there was even a moment inside the arena last night where you saw protesters try to put up a sign and quickly were taken down. The sign was taken down and they were escorted out. And that was the only really interruption we saw inside the arena. And outside, they've been able to maintain keeping the protesters, the ones that are here, away from the United Center. We know the security that they have lined up here blocks and blocks away, barricades set up, the security that you have to go through to get inside. And folks here, as you can see, dancing, happy. I think the Democratic Party was really trying to keep that focus away from the protesters. We even saw it at the rally on Wednesday with Harris and Biden. Basically, there was no protesters inside that rally. And that was the first time I noticed that, Leland, that there was no interruption during a Biden or Harris speech from a protester. There were some outside, but just holding a sign that they were able to avoid. So it definitely is something that the officials here are happy to see, that this is all at least going smoothly besides the delays they had yesterday.
Yeah, and boy, what a difference it has been in terms of the response of the crowd, right? Before we would hear these protests, everyone would get quiet. And we saw that in the crowd before everyone would get quiet and sort of let the protesters have their moment, their speak. And now it is the protesters themselves who are being drowned out by the crowd. The crowd has learned. It happened, as you pointed out, with Walls, with the chants of USA, USA. Kelly Meyer, thank you very much. Democrats here in Milwaukee want nothing more than to recreate the Obama coalition. That's what we'll be talking about with Chris Cuomo down on the floor in just a few minutes. They don't want the map of 2020. They want the map of 2008. They won states like Florida, Indiana, Iowa. Back then, Obama won 95% of the African-American vote. A few months ago, President Biden was only getting 59% of the black vote. It doomed him in states like Pennsylvania. And Donald Trump then saw a critical opening.
They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs. We've all seen the mugshot, and you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. We've done more for, and I say this, I say it proudly, more for the black population than any president since Abraham Lincoln.
All right, Vice President Kamala Harris now up around 75% of black voters in recent polling. Much of what we are hearing in Chicago is about bringing young black voters, especially young black men, back into the Kamala Harris fold. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida, House Oversight Committee member, is going to try and stop that. Good to see you, sir. Welcome. Thank you.
It's good to be with you.
Well, what is it like? What's it like as a Republican firebrand congressman to be in the DNC?
Well, listen, I take my game anywhere. So it doesn't matter what the room is, what the hall is. I'm ready to go. All right,
here we go. Just realistically, it's a lot different for the Trump campaign and Republicans trying to get black voters with Kamala Harris on top of the ticket than Joe Biden, right?
Well, go back to the poll you just had up. In that Reuters poll, I think that's who you had, Kamala Harris at 75%. I kind of expected that. Donald Trump at 18% of the black vote. We've talked about in this entire campaign that there is a movement of black voters in our country who are moving not just to Donald Trump, but they're moving towards conservatism. We expect that trend to continue. With Joe Biden, it was going to be a major disaster for the Democrat Party. We all acknowledge that. There's still work to do on our side of the political aisle, to demonstrate to black voters that we have the prescription and the policies to make their lives better going forward, give them an opportunity to build real generational wealth in this country, live up to that creed of being a more perfect union. But I will tell you this, we're going to do tremendously well in 2024 compared to any other previous election.
Well,
period.
Look, it wouldn't be hard to do better than compared to, say, Barack Obama, who got 95% of the black vote. So he's going to be on the stage tonight. What would worry you? What would he say to black voters, especially young black men, that would worry you that that what you all are projecting and expecting in terms of support is not going to materialize?
I really don't think there's anything he can say.
Really?
Barack Obama is the past now. He's not going into the Oval Office. Young black men are looking at this economy and they're saying, why am I falling behind? They're looking at the border and saying, how is it that my community has needed help all these years, but now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris let in 10 million illegal immigrants and they get free hotel stays, free food, and every single piece of help they could possibly get. They know it's wrong, and they want a new vision for the country, one that allows them to succeed and prosper. And then the last thing, and this is important, I think younger black voters are tired of the same old political speeches every 4 years about we got to protect the right to vote and all this other stuff. The state of Georgia, which is not a blue state, put in new election laws. Black people have no problem voting. Florida, which is frankly the leading Republican state in the country, black people have no issues voting whatsoever. I've lived in the state for more than 20 years, never had a problem. The old tropes are losing their effect on young voters in our country, especially young black men in our country.
All right. Congressman, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Your game is good in any arena. We know that.
Listen, all they got to do is say, you know what, give them the microphone, see what happens.
we appreciate you coming in. Thank you, sir. And enjoy your time with the president tomorrow, rally in North Carolina, right?
I'll be there tomorrow.
All right, we'll be covering it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Former President Obama and his very popular wife will take the stage in Chicago. They will speak to all America, perhaps, as Barack Obama did in 2004, or they may just make a case to the Democratic base. A man who has been at so many conventions. Give us a little perspective when we come back. iServe Arena, that's where the RNC was. And boy, have conventions changed. The stunts, the pageantry, the stagecraft just keeps getting more advanced. They've passed these out to everybody. They're light-up bracelets to create a concert show here. You see the Fiserv Arena there that they're watching the DNC here in Chicago for a joint rally. Chris Cuomo down on the floor where he will kick off our special coverage in a couple minutes. And Chris, I think about this. Just in terms of watching this is so much more of a concert, of a show, of an infomercial than, say, the 1984 convention, your first convention with your head speaking in a policy speech.
Yes, this is not about the process anymore. It's pageantry. This is produced for television and for digital media and for exposure and likes and impressions. And that's what you're seeing. I mean, we're going through the roll call right now, and they vote each day, but it's pro forma. When my father gave the keynote in 1984, there were active discussions about what it would mean for Walter Mondale on the ground. And times have changed. And frankly, we thought, Leland, you and I especially, that this one was going to be different, that the Democrats were actually going to have a brokered convention or an open convention. Man, was I wrong. This is the opposite. Kamala Harris is everybody's choice. We talked about a brokered convention or something like that.
Yeah, well, we talked about a brokered convention or something like that. Can you just imagine, though, and I think it's important, I think 30 days ago, Joe Biden was going to be the nominee. Just imagine what the energy would have been like, the difference between coming here if Joe Biden had been the nominee and had survived the Nancy Pelosi knifing. I don't know if we have that picture of her with the I'm with Joe hard. Thank you, Joe. The difference of 30 days is just orders of magnitude.
Well, welcome to politics, right? I mean, it's all about self-interest and advantage, right? It's a zero-sum game. It's either your person or the other person. So Kamala Harris goes from someone that nobody really had her name in their mouth. Now everybody's got a pin on. You know, that's the way politics works. I would have rathered a brokered convention. I would have rathered the process. I think it would have been really good for the country. But you know what? That is an idealistic view. And this is the reality. This is about winning. And I got to tell you, the big talk on the ground here, Leland, is everybody giving their version of how they were in favor of Biden stepping away. Everybody's trying to say they were part of the solution. That's politics.
Yeah, I know that is. It's funny how many people now were for it. When you and I were trying to cover this, it was so hard to get any Democratic lawmaker to come on and stick their neck out and talk about it. And now everybody, let me tell you how I was so crucially involved. Last point for you. The Obama movement in 2008, that was so electrical. See Barack Obama tonight. This feels like an equal amount of energy, but the enthusiasm isn't quite as deep. The movement hasn't had time to format.
I think he was a different kind of first. Kamala Harris will be a first also as a female of color to be the nominee, and that's a big deal. It's certainly a big deal to the Democrats here, there's no question about it. I think that there's going to be a really quick follow to that about how she uses that position. I think the Obama experience created a different set of expectation for the mandate, and we'll see how she uses this mantle, but there's a lot of heat in the House tonight.
Oh, boy. And we will be here for all of it. Chris, thank you. Chris kicks off our special coverage in just a second. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama coming up. You think about yesterday, they said goodbye to Joe Biden. And it was a late night goodbye. 12:30 Eastern, Joe Biden ended. And now it is 3 days of a ramp up to Michelle Obama starting this off, then Barack Obama, and a ramp up to Kamala Harris. You can imagine there's Kamala Harris in Milwaukee. They're piping that in here to Chicago.